When I held 3 babies in my arms, Whitney, the first thing that was going through my mind was just, I have got to provide for financial security for my family. Having clarity and confidence over your financial future is just super empowering. What is the definition of wealth? What does it actually mean? It's all about creating freedom for you. Really, wealth is much more than just financial capital. It's all these other areas of capital: emotional capital, spiritual capital, physical capital.
This is your real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Dave Wolcott. He's a CEO of Pantheon Investments, 20 plus years of alternative assets, private markets, tax strategy, multi-generational wealth, built several businesses, and just very experienced in investing in alternative assets. He's the podcast host of Wealth Strategy Secrets of the Ultra Wealthy. He's a former captain in the Marine Corps, and he's going to lay out numerous strategies around wealth building, wealth creation, personal development that he has seen through time and time again advising the ultra wealthy to protect and grow their wealth. You're going to learn a lot from Dave today. Dave, welcome back to the show.
Whitney, so good to see you, and really grateful to connect with you and your audience.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I selfishly, I like talking to people like you because I need these strategies that you've become an expert in as well, personally and for our listener base. So I think it's so helpful just to think through, just wealth building and strategies and things that, man, I growing up, that was never a thought in my family. But I've had to try to think about those things, as I've grown as an entrepreneur in business and those things. And so we need people like you who are experts in those things.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'd love to jump right in and just start picking your brain a little bit for myself and the listeners. What do you do every day? Who's your main clientele? And then we're going to jump into some of the wealth strategies that you help implement for them.
Yeah, sure. And I guess for those listeners, right, who, maybe haven't heard me before, we did a show, I guess, last year. So that has kind of my background, and really the genesis of my story, just to provide context, was really, after the 2000 tech bubble burst and I got tired of getting burned in the stock market. And at the same time, we actually had triplets and quadrupled the size of my family. I don't have 5 like you do now. So now you beat me, Whitney.
It's not too late.
Yeah. Good point. I mean, when I held 3 babies in my arms, Whitney, the first thing that was going through my mind was just, I have got to provide for financial security for my family. And I really had a big vision, not only for myself and now, quadrupling the size of my family overnight. This just put me on this obsessive track to figure out how the top 1% were really building wealth, because I knew it wasn't as a retail investor in the stock market. So I started looking under every rock I could, talking to every person I could, reading every book. This was even before podcasts were out, and trying to uncover all of these strategies. And now, today, after talking to thousands of different investors, implementing, strategies myself, and really watching our clients become successful with these strategies has been just massively rewarding, Whitney. On really, once I think you can understand some of these principles on how money works, and then how you can use some of these frameworks and some of this methodology that we talk about in my book, The Holistic Wealth Strategy, to really, build and preserve your wealth. It's a game changer for sure. It really 10x's your wealth. And more importantly, having clarity and confidence over your financial future is just super empowering.
No doubt. It is very empowering. Sometimes it can be overwhelming at first, right? And so you almost need somebody to help you a little bit, or at least how to learn, right, what that looks like. And, I guess to get us started, give us some of those key principles, right, of that holistic wealth strategy you're talking about, or that's been just instrumental as far as helping others achieve financial freedom.
Yeah, well, the first thing is it all starts with creating a vision, because if you don't have a target, you're going to miss every time. And if anyone, I know you have a lot of operators and entrepreneurs out there. If you've ever read Cameron Herold's book, Vivid Vision, if you haven't, read it. It's a phenomenal book. But this is talking about what is your life going to look like in 10, 25 years, right? What does it smell like? What are your relationships like, right? What does your environment look like? How much money do you have coming in passively? What does your net worth look like? What does your philanthropy look like, right? I mean, all of those really distinct things and really getting crystal clear on what it is. It's funny, right? Because we get in the car to go on a trip every time, right? We're in the holidays right now. And the first thing you do to go anywhere is you type in the GPS coordinates. And it's like, Roger that, right? That's where I'm going. Oftentimes, right, with life, I think we get burdened with, being reactionary to our jobs, raising families, and all the things that are going on. So it's really important to do that deep work and understand where it is that you're really headed. Because when you can create that, right, the mind loves to actually take, that vision that you're creating and turn it into reality. So it all really starts with creating that vision. And then also the next step would be developing your mindset. And in your mindset, it's constantly having that growth mindset. So how can I constantly be learning new ideas? Also doing some deep work on yourself, right? We all may have, let's say, limiting beliefs. Like, for me, for instance, right, I grew up and, frankly, it was a scarcity household, right? We didn't really have much and there was never enough money, right? And that kind of changed how I was thinking through things. So it took a while to convert that scarcity mindset into an abundance mindset, but that was because I did work on myself. I kind of developed my mindset, and then you start to create habits and goals, right, that support the vision that you want to get to. And it's amazing, right, how fast you can grow. And think about people like Elon Musk, right? Look what he's accomplishing, compared to that person you went to high school with who's in the same job, in the same town, same circle of friends.
A couple quick questions here as we go along. As far as the book Vivid Vision, I've heard of that numerous times. I have not read it. I'm glad you brought it up because I'm gonna look it up again. But when should we do that? Let's say the 25-year-old's listening, versus the 45-year-old that's listening. When should we do that?
We should do that all the time, right? I mean, at least every year. Okay, so I'm 54 right now. I'm working on my vision to the next 25 years. So, when I'm 80, right, what do I want things to look like at 80? And 25-year frameworks are actually really important to think through, because what that does is it takes away, it filters all the constraints. Forget about thinking about how am I going to be doing something, right? You just want to focus on the why and what's really important to you, right? Because it's all about that desire is what's going to create you energy to actually get there. But what's important in Vivid Vision is, again, you literally describe all of the details, right? In a huge amount of detail of what do you want your relationships to look like, right? What is your top circle of friends, look like? How much time are you spending there? How much time, we all say that family is really important. Well, what does that really mean, right? How much time are you actually spending with them? What are you doing to instill values, right? And things in them, right? Are you setting up a family constitution or setting up a family office or things like that that can actually support that? So when you have crystal clear clarity on what that actually looks like, you will achieve it.
Love that. No doubt about it. I mean, if you don't plan what you plan to fail type of thing, right? Or not planning is a plan to some degree. And even the mindset piece, and we've talked about it for years, but it is so crucially important, right? And I know for me, for a number of years, like I didn't even think all this was even possible, right? It wasn't even in my head that, hey, I could go do this. Before we started recording, you even mentioned, hey, being an entrepreneur, right? There's no limit to your income. It's that type of mentality was not in my head growing up, right? It was much more scarcity, like you were referring to. So some definite changes there had to occur just from, the places the Lord's taken me and people has allowed me to meet, have helped with that in a massive way. But also I agree with, being so intentional with the habits that we have. And you talked about habits that we need. I feel like that's come up for me recently a number of times. I was talking to my boys yesterday about this on the way to a guitar lesson. It's like the habits that we have and the things we're consistent with are so important. And so, what would you say are some of these consistent habits that one we need, but maybe that you've seen that are have been most impactful across those who you've helped become, financial or reach financial freedom?
Yeah, great question. I mean, life really is a series of habits, right? And when you can constantly be creating new habits, right, you will definitely expand, right? Some of those habits. Here, another great book, right? Very simple. The Richest Man from Babylon. It's all about keeping more than not spending more than you make, and putting some money aside, right? So that's a great, basically investing. And I'm teaching my kids that. One of my sons, he has a challenge doing that. And it's such a simple concept, and the numbers are smaller, right, for the kids at whatever age. But it's that habit. I keep telling him, you're just going to be adding zeros, as you become more successful. But you have to build the habit, right? So obviously that's a really key one. I love to talk about tax strategy because I think that's so often overlooked by many investors out there. If you can save 10 to 20% on your taxes, plus you put that in a great opportunity like you have, right? Now you're looking at a 30% return plus. Right. And that's perpetual, right? If you actually put in place a tax strategy. We've had several, top tier tax strategists on our podcast this year. And we're always opening up, new strategies. But what I see is that people who have great tax strategies with proactive tax planners, they're able to reduce their taxes to, 0 to 20%, frankly. That's been a huge, habit, I think, that people have. And another big habit is, people basically investing in themselves. How can you invest in your health, in your relationships, we talked about the mindset, right? What are you doing? I mean, I spend six figures in masterminds that I attend every year to continually grow myself, with new relationships, new ideas, new environments that you get exposure to learn different things. This is the true education in the world, right? It's like the MBA, right, of kind of success. So you have to be investing in yourself, and all of those things. And health is such a big one, right? And I think, to kind of frame this a little bit, right, Whitney? I had Charlie Garcia on our podcast this year. He runs R360, which is a centimillionaire community. And one of the things that we talked about, which is, super fascinating to me, which is basically, what is the definition of wealth? What does it actually mean, right? And we both concur that really wealth is much more than just financial capital. It's all these other areas of capital: emotional capital, spiritual capital, physical capital, intellectual capital. There are all of these other domains that are very important, right? Because think about, you see plenty of these people, whether they're entertainers, sports stars, top CEOs, and they might have a ton of money, but they're miserable. They have they burned up every relationship they have. They may have burned up their health, right? So these other components of capital are very important in holistic wealth.
Yeah, love that. I love the focus across all aspects of our life, right? It's not just financial, no doubt about it, because it never ceases to amaze me, the focus we have on wealth. But man, it doesn't take long to find people who are ultra wealthy who are miserable, right?
Yeah.
Or even to the point of suicide, unfortunately, right? Think about that for a moment. So you mentioned proactive tax planner, and so I get questions often about, how should I be looking at my taxes? How do I plan like that? But then it leads to, how do I find somebody like that? Because often, our CPA is often not our, say, tax strategist, right? Or shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
Depending on who that person is or their qualifications, they may be, but oftentimes it's not, I find. But how do you find that person that's like really a proactive tax planner, like you mentioned?
Yeah, great question. And frankly, it took me 25 years to really curate some, top tier relationships. But what you have to do is first understand that the terminology is this in the industry: is your tax person, is your CPA a tax preparer, which means they're actually doing your filing and they're looking at everything in the rearview mirror. So send me all your statements, what happened this year, and that's what they're doing. But a tax planner or a strategic tax planner, right, would be actually looking forward with you around creating proactive strategies, right, to reduce your taxes, right? And you can actually, in some cases, they could be one and the same, or you could have two, right? So you could have a tax preparer and then you could have a tax strategist who's creating the strategy. In addition to this, what I think is really important is, and this is really the second phase in our book, The Holistic Wealth Strategy, it's all around increasing your financial IQ, right? Because if you don't understand taxes yourself, you won't even know the right questions to ask that tax planner or that tax preparer. So you have to do a good amount of learning yourself and then, and be an active partner in this. For instance, now, anytime I buy a new asset, I spend money anywhere, the first thing that goes through my mind is, how can we make this tax efficient, right? Does this support our overall tax strategy?
Incredible. What's I know you said it took 20 years. What's something the listener could do so it doesn't take 20 years for them to find that person?
Yeah, well, we have a list of some vetted people, happy to help provide some referrals for people if that's what they're looking for. A tax planner. Yeah.
I know you emphasize a lot just values, purpose, fulfillment, right? In wealth building. And we briefly touched on it, but and I can definitely resonate with that, personally, and the importance of that. Speak to why that's important, and why is that so critical?
Great question, Whitney. And through my years in this journey, right, of building wealth, I've really studied the psychology of wealth a lot. To me, I find it really fascinating. For instance, if I was to give you, $100 million tomorrow, right? Like, how would that materially change your life? It's really interesting to think through that, right? And I think what it kind of boils down to for most people is that it's all about creating freedom for you. Right? Humans are looking for freedom, right? And we want freedom in multiple dimensions. So there's freedom of money to be able to do the things you want, to provide health care for your family, financial security, things like that. But we want freedom of purpose. So it's waking up every day and being fascinated and motivated about the work that you do versus being in a corporate job that you're not happy about and you're just waiting till you retire. That is not having freedom of purpose. We also want freedom of relationships, right? To have amazing conversations with like this, where we agree on values, we agree on philosophy, right? And those are the kinds of people and relationships I like in my life. And I get to choose that, right? With the people that I want to work with. And also, thinking about freedom of time, right? Do you actually own and control your day? Does your day look like how you want it to? And I know a lot of people, don't. So I think these freedoms are really at the core of what we're looking at. And so how can we use money really as oxygen, right, to be able to get us to these, freedoms?
No doubt. And that goes back to that vision as well, vivid vision, right? I mean, the things you just mentioned, right? You have to spend some time really thinking about those things. I find that that's a hard part, is like settling down out of the day-to-day grind. And so you can really do the hard work of thinking through those things, right? And doing that planning.
Yeah, we have a mastermind group, and it's amazing. Like our last conversation this month, I mean, it's all about time, freedom of time. And it's fascinating because you can even have the resources, the financial capital, right? But you still don't have time. And in fact, the more financial capital you have, you often find that you have less time.
You always thought it would be the other way around, right?
Exactly, right? So how can you devise different, systems, processes, habits, delegation, automation, right? All of these other things to offload certain things that really just don't excite you and provide more freedom for you.
Speak to some of the technical side of it, alternative investments and in versus maybe stock market, or speak to that a little bit. How do you determine that? Any stock market, none? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so our thesis is this, Whitney, right? Just like in multifamily real estate, right? We like assets that are non-correlated to the stock market because we don't have the volatility to that. We like strong macroeconomic fundamentals where we can invest for a 20-year horizon, right? This is how family offices are investing. It doesn't matter who's in office at the time. We want to know that, fundamentally, right, there's more demand than there is supply, right, in a certain asset class, right? So we actually focus on three core sectors. Those are real estate, commercial real estate, energy, oil and gas, as well as renewables, and then also private credit and debt, because everyone needs money. And the attributes of these investments are typically three things. Everyone's looking for tax efficiency, some type of cash flow, and then some type of forced appreciation on the asset. We just did a new development condo. I was actually just there on Thursday in Fort Lauderdale. It's a 380 unit build to rent condo that's just a super, one of a kind type product. And it's a 3.5x return in 4 years, right? Based on the product, based on the market, things like that, right? So we're looking where, there's not enough demand. You've got strong competitive differentiation, right? Another example, right? We have this merchant cash advance fund, and you could be making 20+% in cash flow. That's completely, non-correlated to the market. Also, you don't have interest rate risk because of, real estate, right? So you have some diversification there, and you have steady cash flow coming in. So as much as we love real estate, people who have 100% of their assets in real estate right now are hurting. Right? You've got no liquidity. We had no control to the unprecedented interest rate increases, and a lot of assets are still hanging on. But we are looking at interesting assets in real estate. Another one that's coming out in first quarter is actually Medtail, right? It's an asset class where you've got office buildings that are anchored by medical or dental facilities that already have long-term 10-year leases locked up. So super low risk, high demand, recession proof. So we're always looking at, different asset classes like that again have those three attributes, right? Of tax efficiency, cash flow, and appreciation.
What about, which alternative investments have you found to be most impactful? I know you just said why, or you're looking for those three things. Is it usually real estate? Is that your main focus?
We like real estate, but it's been tough. I mean, we haven't bought multifamily in probably 18 months now, easily. We haven't touched anything. And I don't think we're at the bottom. We're going to start buying, once we get, past the bottom, even though there's good deals out there, I think they're still overvalued. So nothing has really kind of papered for us. So we've kind of stayed out of that. But you really have to think about your goals too, right? You need diversification, right? We have an oil and gas deal. I mean, it's end of year right now, but if you've never invested in oil and gas, I mean, I don't care, what industry you're in or what part of the world you live in, right? But there is so much demand for energy and not enough supply. Right. It's just that simple. And especially with the boom in AI and computing, it's just driving more and more demand for that. So like this deal right now, we have a 62% IRR in year one with your cash on cash return in addition to the tax benefits. I mean, that's huge, right? If you're looking at IRR, you're trying to, cycle your cash flow, right, to grow your wealth really solid. So I think people should really think through the purpose of, their asset allocation model, right? What are you really looking for? Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for, growing your balance sheet? Or, maybe you're a high income earner, right? And you can do more, right? By getting your taxes a lot lower. Because to me, that's completely low-hanging fruit. Bring down your taxes, diversify your portfolio, increase that velocity of money in your portfolio, right? And you're going to hit your goals a lot quicker.
I know you have, you've studied the ultra wealthy. You mentioned R360. I'm familiar with a number of people in R360, and just studying those kind of top investors, right? Or top investors in the world, and it is a different way of thinking when you're, let's say, 100, 200 million or more, right? A net worth. Maybe what are, say, one or two of your maybe favorite strategies that are maybe lesser known, that you've seen the ultra wealthy use?
Yeah, I mean, Whitney, it really comes down to almost everyone is a business owner. So they're growing their wealth as entrepreneurs, right? And then they've had some big exit along the way. And then they're using investment strategy to, preserve and multiply their wealth. And it's a store of capital using real estate and energy and some of these other, types of strategies. But people aren't, completely looking at, right, investing, right, is the way to completely grow their wealth. It's more of the store of wealth, and then you don't want to lose it, right? And then if we can get, anywhere from a 15 to 30% return, right, on a risk-adjusted basis, you're doing well. So I don't think there's anything super unique that they're doing, but it's how they view wealth, right? What's really important to them. That's what they're more focused on, because you'll hit a point in your trajectory where, another zero or additional, money coming into your balance sheet, it's just not going to materially change your life. It really isn't, right? So they're focused on, what can we do with our philanthropic causes? What can we do with, our unique abilities, what we bring to the marketplace? How can we leverage that to create more impact for other people? And then deepen those things that drive them, right? Their purpose, right? And their vision, which is typically all those things that we talked about, right? The spiritual capital, the physical capital, all of those things. They're investing very heavily in their health in this day and age with the advances in regenerative, technologies that are out there. I've been doing stem cell treatments, lots of different things that are really cool. They're at the cutting edge, of all of that.
Any misconceptions that you'd like to debunk that you hear often?
Yeah. Here's a great one. And again, we all have kids, right? And social media is in our face all the time. And I think there's a big distinction between being rich and being wealthy. Okay. And I think being rich is, the person driving a Lamborghini, right? And, having the yacht and being all flashy, right? With how they're spending their money on material things, versus the wealthy who are actually focused on, building assets, investing in themselves, investing in their relationships, and think about it instead of, material things like here's a great one, end of year people can think about, right? Which is creating your 100, which is a be, do, and have 100. What's your absolute top 100? So, for you and I, like, values are super important. So one of my values is integrity. So am I being, true to being, having integrity every day? I want to live that every day. Things like that. That's wealthy. But a lot of those people, they have the nice car and, they're a lease payment away from losing it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It looks good on the outside, right? It's kind of like Facebook. I feel like, you see people just look like they're just having the happiest life ever, right? And that's not always the case. Yeah, the true wealth is crucially important, and that involves all those aspects. I mean, we really started with in the conversation, right? Just this, the mindset of growing up from the lack thereof, right, type of mentality. It just transitioning to having some wealth, right, and growing and pushing personal growth, and it sounds like a similar background for you. Speak to some of the transitions. I feel like are it's hard to know in that transition, like who the next people are you're going to surround yourself with, right? And you mentioned like R360 and some of those groups. How have you grown in that? You talked about how much you invest annually in masterminds. I couldn't agree more. It's so important that you're surrounding yourself with the right people. But I've found like it's hard to find those groups at times as I've grown, right? It's hard to figure out what the next level group or mastermind or mentor is and where I should invest, or even just getting in can be difficult. Speak to how you've done that. So you've pushed yourself, in personal growth, because I feel like it's so tied to our financial growth, and personal development is me constantly seeking other people that are ahead of me in all those areas.
Yeah, I think most entrepreneurs are really, on that journey, right? We're always trying to grow personally as well as our businesses, right? So you have to look inside, right, from a personal development standpoint, right? You get to this point where like, hey, I've got to go deeper in uncovering maybe some subconscious roadblocks I'm having, right, or limiting beliefs I don't even really know that are there. So that's kind of part of it, like looking internally, right, and where you can go. And then from an external standpoint, again, we've talked a lot about values here today, and that is so guiding for me. I'm at the point now. I won't even align with a partner, a client. We'll even, we'll even not work with clients, right, if they're not aligned with us in terms of values, right? So the more you can kind of align to what's really important to you. And then it's interesting because life has clues, right? There's a series of clues that you see, and you get to make decisions along the way. Do you go right or do you go left? And as these clues really present themselves, the truer you are and the clearer you are on what your vision is that we started with, it just starts to make more sense. These people are much more aligned to where I'm headed, and they're way above me. So yes, I want to go in this direction. They're saying all the things that I want to know. And then before you know it, it's just like, then there's, another set of decisions, right? So it's kind of like always pointing yourself, in the right direction, and then opportunities present themselves. And this is why, if you've ever read 10X is easier than 2X, right? And I had Dan Sullivan on our show as well, and we really kind of talked about that, right? But it's just trying to think much bigger and stop get out of our own way with all the how and the linear type of thinking, and just think about this bigger thinking and putting yourself there, and things kind of magically appear. And really from a neuroscience perspective, I think what's fascinating, right, people should think about this, is that your beliefs become your thoughts become your emotions, and your emotions become your actions. So when you start to kind of break that down, right, are those beliefs and thoughts, taking you on an upward trajectory or taking you on a downward trajectory, right, off of your target, right? Because we will, right, as humans, we will achieve what we believe, right? So creating that compass is just crystal clear.
I tell my kids all the time that it matters what you think. It matters what you say, how you speak, or what you say about yourself. And, because what you believe, no doubt it matters. I appreciate you just taking it back to that, because it is so crucially important. David, transitioning just a little bit here, what would you say is your predictions for the next 6, 12, 18 months as far as investing, really speaking to that passive investor or high net worth that's listening?
Yeah, great question. So I've been traveling, gosh, almost for the past 2 months, and talking to a lot of family offices, listening to investor mandates, being involved in some top mastermind communities. And it's interesting. I think there's a real sense of, again, not to be political here, but there's a new sense of enthusiasm out there for sure. And I think we're really seeing that in a lot of sectors in terms of investing. So if you're thinking about investing in your business, I think there was a lot of uncertainty this past year, and people were kind of sitting on the sidelines, really not really sure whether they were investing in their business or investing in general. But everyone is, in fact, I've even heard a term, people are calling it a Trump bump. That's going to happen. Right. So I think that's going to be good for us as small businesses, right? Less bureaucracy, probably better tax, right? In terms of tax code and everything and regulation, that should be much more aligned, right? From a business standpoint. So that means like, all those sectors we talked about investing in, energy, real estate, the emerging cash advances, investing in small businesses, right? All of those sectors, I think, are going to do well. The consensus is everyone is really optimistic right now. And especially if we can put these these wars behind us, right? And have some global peace out there and start focusing on productivity, I think that's going to be good for everyone. And it's going to be good for us as a society as well.
Do you feel now's a good time to invest?
100%. It's always a good time to invest. All the fear mongering that you see in social media and all of these things, CNN, I mean, all of these shows, that's what they prey on, right? That's what they want is you to, fall prey to that. But when you can, again, this is why, again, everything really starts with mindset, right? Tune out the noise, understand what's really important for you. And this is such great timing, Whitney, right? So we're just beginning. Going into 2025, you have got to set some clear targets for your goals this year. If it's more passive income you want, set that goal right now. If you're trying to increase your balance sheet, if you're trying to reduce your taxes, what is it? Set those goals. Make sure you have a team that can help you support those. This will be a year to make some significant progress, because the life that you've dreamed about is really at your fingertips. And you should also know that there's probably 1 billion people that would love to trade, places with you.
What's your best advice for those passive investors right now that are looking to invest really soon, like you're talking about?
Yeah, I would say do your due diligence. And definitely, investigate who you want to partner with, be aligned in terms of your values, and because you're investing in the team, right? Not just the asset class. It's all about people who you're going to kind of invest with. And also do some serious work on your asset allocation strategy, right? Don't just pick that next opportunity because your buddy said, hey, I'm investing in this multifamily deal and it sounds great and everything, right? Put some strategy behind it to understand that you have actually some risk diversification, right, across your strategy. Start to think about long term. Where do you want to be? Whether that's towards retirement, what do you want your passive income to be? And in fact, I mean, we've actually just created a software product that will be rolling out in first quarter to help people do that, right? To help actually plan for, hey, I want my passive income to exceed my expenses in 7 years. Well, how do I actually plan that? Well, you can't improve something unless you're measuring and managing that, right? I mean, it's critical to be able to do that. So start just kind of thinking through that and make sure your spouse is on board and your family's on board right now, and take the opportunity to teach your kids these concepts as well. But it's always a great time to invest. And if you're unsure about investing in an asset class, invest in yourself.
One of the best asset classes, if not, well, the best, I would say, where you need to start, right? What about, what's your best source for meeting new investors right now?
Likely the podcast and, really just, networking and events. Yeah.
What about the biggest challenge you're facing in your business?
The biggest challenge was really the interest rates on the real estate side. I think that put a lot of assets and operators under a lot of strain. And frankly, it was artificially created by the Fed that just increased, the entire commercial real estate industry, like 95% of it, was using floating rate debt. It wasn't just like one operator did that. The unprecedented increase so fast that came through caught everyone off guard and has created a systemic issue in real estate. And it's not only multifamily, right? It's office, right? It's some other asset classes as well. So I think it's been tough to see, right? Because there's operators who've actually executed according to their pro formas and business plan, like flawlessly, right? Everything has really gone well, but people just can't keep up with the interest rate caps. That's probably one of the biggest challenges, but, hopefully we're going to get some relief, in 25 with some, rates, and people are starting to get creative with different, structures and pref equity and different things. And I think for investors, what you need to do is you need to learn from that lesson, right? Whether you've had any exposure to that or not, it's learning, because you will lose in this game of investing, right? You will lose. If you haven't, you will soon. But that's what makes investors stronger, right? That's what's going to make you do better due diligence on your next opportunity. It's going to make you think about the strategy again in terms of your risk, not having all your eggs in one basket. having diversification, like we said, in different asset classes. Like I said, we love real estate, but that's why we don't want all of our eggs in that basket, So really thinking thoughtfully through it.
Dave, what are some of the most important metrics that you track? Could be personally or professionally.
Oh, great one. I mean, we have a ton of metrics. I mean, our business obviously has massive KPIs to it. We run on EOS as well, so we're reviewing kind of metrics there. Personally, I think about all those different dimensions, right? Like my health. So every 90 days, I'm doing blood work. I'm working very actively with a functional medicine doctor. So I'm working to constantly improve my lab work. My biological age is 10 years younger than my chronological age. So, and then I want to get that down 10 years in the next 10 years to be 20 years younger. So those are some great KPIs. Start thinking about health KPIs, because if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter what your wealth looks like, right? You're not going to have anything. So that's really, really important. I like to think about my relationships as well, like on certain scores, like a score of, 1 to 10, where do my relationships sit with people? And even my family, even my direct family, right? What more could I be doing for my kids right now? How much more can I support them? My parents are aging, right? What more can I do with them? Is it spending more time with them? Is it providing resources or knowledge, things like that? So, relationships are important as well. On the financial side, back to that software. And again, I've been trying to build this for really 20 years because I've got, 100 different spreadsheets on tracking your wealth, on everything from tracking IRR to looking at asset allocation across all different asset classes, to tracking passive income, to tracking what is your minimum effective tax rate, all of these different things. But how can I have key KPIs that manage to what I'm actually doing? So this is why we're building a product and bringing it out to the market, because all of us as real estate investors, all of us in the alternative space, this is what we're looking to do, right? We don't want just our broker telling us the market's up or down, right? We're much more sophisticated to do that. And if you start tracking those key KPIs around your own wealth and reviewing that regularly and including your spouse in that, you're going to 10X, 100%.
What's your, or maybe the best book you'd recommend on wealth building other than your own?
Other than my own, huh? Well, it would have to be really Cash Flow Quadrant by Kiyosaki. I mean, I think for me, that was the big light bulb moment, and really understanding that being a business owner and an investor will have you in the lowest tax bracket, as well as, the most capital upside, right, potential. So that was a fantastic book.
What about your favorite guest on your show?
Oh, that's a tough one. We've had a lot of really good ones. Yeah, I mean, Charlie Garcia, I think, was amazing.
Yeah, I've seen him in person and some of his team. It's pretty incredible. Well, Dave, how do you like to give back?
Actually, this is so great, Whitney. And we have so many things in common all the time, but we've been donating to thefund.org, which is the military veteran charity, for those that have been, wounded, right? And it's all branches, things like that. So we've been giving all of the proceeds from the book. So if anyone buys the book on Amazon or anything, all of the proceeds go to there. And, we're really hoping to ramp that up as we continue, and would love to actually create a foundation out of that, going into, some other areas like healthcare and things that we can provide some of our expertise and resources for.
Awesome. Oh, Dave, I'm grateful to know you, to have you back on the show, and us really talk through, what some of the wealthy do, but really where it starts. And I feel like numerous times in conversation, it's going so back many times to us personally, right? So far back to just your mental mindset and your planning and your vision and all these things. And for so long, I feel like I just kind of, okay, give me some meat and potatoes here. That doesn't really feel like I'm doing much, but really that's the hard work. Right. That, you have to really step aside to do. And I just feel like you just nailed that so many times today. That's what the wealthy are doing constantly now. right? There's thinking through those things and planning and being strategic and bringing other people around them that have been there and done that and helping them to think through those things. But you don't have to have 200 million to start doing that, right? So grateful for you helping us today with that. How can the listeners get in touch with you and learn more about you and your book?
You just nailed that, Whitney, right? I mean, you said it spot on, which is that is the hard work, right? It's kind of easy to go to your work and go about your day and do your things that are required of you. But we're talking about really deep thinking, right? And deep strategy and then execution, goal setting, habits, right? That is the hard work. But that's where the biggest reward lies. So I encourage people to think about that, especially kind of as we start a new year. And then just one thing to kind of, tie that together, right, with our business and how we're trying to serve people is that we actually created a virtual family office this year because our belief is that, you don't need to be $100 million family to really think this way and to make progress and build a team of advisors around you that's really going to 10x your wealth. So we cover everything from, estate planning, tax, proactive tax planning, right? Asset protection, right? Risk management, all of these really key things, and have someone to help quarterback you, if you're basically, you don't have the time or the complexity just starts to get pretty gnarly, right? As you keep growing. Just want to leave you with that thought. And, if anyone wants to reach out or you enjoyed the thoughts, we have a free copy of the book that I wanted to leave for your listeners at holisticwealthstrategy.com.
Awesome, Dave. That's a wrap. Thank you so much.